So folks, I'm going to talk as quick as I can on a bit of marking really, RAG123. It's something that we've been developing and trying to share as much as we can because we think it's really, really useful. So firstly, not my idea exclusively. I think I might have invented the hashtag, but otherwise these are kind of a combination of a load of different ideas. Some perpetual challenges with teaching. We're just keeping up to date with marking. We all know that is a problem. So we need to try and find a way of helping it fit in the working week. To get students involved in the marking process and get dialogue, we need to give them the time to get involved, and we also need to make it as relevant as possible. And then finally, making feedback that's kind of timely and relevant. We've got to minimise the time between the work being done and getting the feedback back to them. They've got to see that there's a link between the feedback they get. So, further on to that, in terms of planning the progress, we've got to really understand what the students can and can't do. Now that's difficult to do, so we need to be able to get a really close appreciation of the security they're learning from each lesson. And there's also always those students in the class that kind of fly below the radar, the ones that you don't necessarily stand out, you don't have them to talk to much during a lesson. You think have understood it, you think have done loads of work, they may not have done. So, RAG123 is a way to mark books after every lesson. All you do is you take a very quick look at the books. You do a red, amber, green based on effort, and a 1, 2, 3 based on your perception of their understanding they've shown. So in the book you code it, G1, R3, A2, whatever. Basically the full class can take you between 5 and 15 minutes, and it depends on the size of the class and how quickly you're going through it. If it takes you longer than that, you're not doing RAG123 marking, you're doing a different type of marking. The key thing is, I do the students self-assess this, and then you're just agreeing with them or adjusting that kind of thing. The vital bit of this is that you then use that to feed into your planning. So you adjust your next lesson based on what you've seen in their books. Really important thing, the students have to know what it looks like. Okay, so we have these posted up in every maths room. There's also another version which is a student version that allows them to self-assess and helps them to self-assess to see where they're going to put themselves. In books, you can see it's an A1, it's a G2 scribbled on the page. You might put a few other comments here or there, but it doesn't need to be that detailed because you're going to see them the next lesson. So you can go and have the conversation if you need to. Once the students become familiar, they start self-assessing. So they start saying G1, and ideally get them to put a reason for it. And then you can talk to them. You see them next lesson, you say, you worked so brilliantly last lesson, I completely agreed with your G1 rating. You get students coming into lessons saying, I'm going to get a green today. It boosts their motivation. Sometimes you might need to adjust it. They've rated themselves a G1. I've spotted there's a mistake in there. All I've said is talk to me about this next lesson. I haven't corrected it because I want to have that dialogue. It doesn't need the detailed modelling correction because I can just go and talk to them and actually understand where they've made these mistakes. You can develop dialogue really quickly. We've got their initial G2-3 at the top there. They self-rated that. I asked why couldn't they give themselves G1, what would make them more confident? They responded that they needed to write down more of the theory to understand that. My final comment was, okay, do it next time. But all of those comments were inside 24 hours. They did the first lesson, I commented on it, I saw the next day, they responded and just carried on. Sometimes they'll correct things in the next lesson because you're responding that quickly. Okay, so sometimes you can say, talk to me, and then the discussion, the student then corrected it. We also, it's not the only feedback we get, they get other things. So we use these kind of feedback slips. I'm not going to go into this in detail, but they do get other feedback as well, but this comes more quickly because I have a really good understanding of what each individual student has been doing on a day-to-day and a week-by-week basis. Now, everyone has objections to this. As soon as I propose, mark every book, every lesson, they say, oh, I can't do it. It must take ages. It doesn't. It really genuinely does take 5 to 15 minutes. Now, it's far easier to find 5 or 15 minutes in your working day than it is to find an hour to sit through a set of books, sit and go through a set of books, or even 2 hours to go through a set of books. So you can fit this in at the end of a lunch break. You can fit this in before school. You can fit this in 15 minutes after school. People say it's not detailed enough for proper feedback. It doesn't need to be because you're responding that quickly. So you can go back in and just talk to the students. The detail here doesn't need to be there because you can actually just have that dialogue and you can write it down, you can go through it face to face. And your next lesson can be shaped by it. People objecting because it's saying it doesn't fit with dialogue marking. It does. It actually promotes more dialogue because the students get that rapid feedback. Students don't know what it means. Actually, they do, and they're really, really perceptive. If I give a student an R1 and then say to the next lesson, why did you get that R1? They'll say, well, I got it, but I didn't try very hard. And they'll be able to explain that, and they can tell you why they did it, and they can really associate it with what they've just done. Won't work for my subject is a classic one. You don't mark differently in maths, it doesn't work. Actually, I know of people that do it across English, MFL, geography, science, maths. It works in all subjects as long as you've got something to look at that the students have done. Ofsted won't like it. Actually, they came into our school just recently. I was actively encouraged to share it across the department. There are other people across Twitter that have been trying this at various points. There's lots of it. If you search on the hashtag RAG123, you'll see all sorts of different comments. Lots of them from me, but there's lots of other people as well. I actively sought feedback on this, looking for negatives. I've never yet had a negative comment on it. There's all sorts of there, I won't go through it. The impact, you can see when the RAG123 started with these groups, the progress improved. I'll skip over that. There really aren't any negatives on this. I'll keep asking for people to give me them, they don't give me them. So, my challenge, just 3 lessons. Try it. 3 lessons, you will see a difference. If you don't, let me know, because I want you to be the first.